CR in 5e is one of those things that just confuses the shit out of me. Okay, I have spent way more time than I should trying to wrap my head around this, because you could go for the easy option of, well, CR sucks, don't use it. Okay, that's what most people agree with. But surely, there's some balance to it. Surely there's some sense to it, okay? And so, looking up CR and what it's supposed to mean, right? CR is balanced around 4 players in D&D, right? Which is about an average size group. Now, I normally have a group of 5, okay? But even when I have got 4 players, this still applies, right? So this means that, like, 4 level 5 players are going to find a CR5 monster to be a medium difficulty challenge, or moderate difficulty. Now, what the hell does that actually mean? Right? It doesn't really do a good job at explaining this in the actual DMG, okay? Or Player's Handbook. I can't remember which book it actually explains it in. It just says, medium difficulty challenge. Doesn't really elaborate. So looking it up, you get 2 explanations. One of them is this means that they'll only use up some resources, like a few resources, like spell slots or HP. But they're not at actually any risk, okay? Others will say it's balanced around the idea that you can fight 8 of these things in a day, like 8 encounters of your group CR per day, so CR5 if you're a group of 5 players, without needing a long rest. Or I think it's something like you can fight 8 of these between long rests or something like that, right? Now this works in a dungeon crawl, but not really out in the wilderness. Because if you're trying to do 8 encounters per travelling day in the wilderness, that is going to be a slog. Like, man, how dangerous are the roads in your world? They're getting ambushed 8 times every single day. My lord. So, a lot of people have their own solutions. Like, people will say, like, okay, well, if you're only going to do 1 combat encounter per day, which, to be honest, is what most people do in 5e. Right, every game I've ever played in, every game I have watched is even like Critical Role does it, it's like a 1 or 2 encounters per day scenario. Even in Untold Destiny, we are usually expecting 1 or 2 combat encounters in a day. Like, not really a lot more than that. Because it helps the flow of the game better. No one wants to be doing 8 combat encounters in a single day, unless you're in a dungeon, in which case you've got like a slightly different mindset. And that's fine, because you can have 8 different rooms with 8 different challenges in it, right? And so dungeons become that point in 5e where the characters are actually more balanced. But as everyone knows with 5e, everyone has a problem with 5e characters being way too powerful, right? I have had a problem with it. I had a level 3 Barbarian and a level 2 Paladin, and they took down a Gladiator with 160 HP, 17 AC, and an average DPR, which is damage per round, of like 37. And they took him down. It was a level 3 Barbarian, level 2 Paladin, with no magic items. Okay? They did this because the Barbarian tanked and the Paladin healed. But that was insane. And I've had it where my like a level 7 Bear Totem Barbarian, okay, they had magic items, but it's still only level 7, managed to solo a level 7, like a CR 17 Death Knight. Almost. And so, like, 5e doesn't really offer an explanation of, like, what you're supposed to do with CR. Because, number one, it doesn't tell you what a moderate challenge is actually supposed to be. You have to look that up. Like, a new DM might come into it thinking, oh, I've got a level 5 group, I'm going to throw this level 5 monster at them, and it should be like a 50-50, because it literally says, I think in the new one, it says it's a fair fight. Right, it's meant to be a fair challenge, a moderate challenge. Like, if you don't look that up, you're going to assume that means like a 50-50. Right? Like, but it's not. Medium difficulty in D&D literally just means easy. It's an easy encounter that you will stomp with no effort at all. And so a lot of people fall into this trap of like, oh, I've got this CR20 dragon for my level 20 group, and it just gets deleted from existence. So, some people have suggested that you should have a deadly encounter, right? What is considered a deadly encounter, or a hard encounter, if you're only doing 1 or 2 encounters per day. The problem is that the deadly encounter part is also misleading, because my level 8 group could easily stomp like a CR 12 to 15 monster, but CR 12 plus for a level 8 group is considered a deadly challenge. And also, a CR 2 is considered a deadly challenge for a level 1 group. So how does it calculate? Because CR 11 is hard for a level 8 group, but a CR 2 is deadly for a level 1. And so, there's all these weird numbers and spreadsheets behind the scenes, which don't really make a lot of sense to the average DM. Okay? There's this very good channel on YouTube called CR Exposed. And they do a lot of the number crunching and spreadsheets and all that. And the 5e monsters are actually perfectly balanced on a spreadsheet. But in practice, they're not. Because as I just said, like my level 3 Barbarian, level 2 Paladin defeated something that would probably be like a CR 10. With the amount of like defensive and offensive stats that it had. Right? My level 8 group would destroy a CR 12 or 13 monster. And that's where you end up with these stories of, oh, I had this adult white dragon against my level 8 group and they destroyed it. Absolutely annihilated it. Now, experience solves this quite easily. Right? If you're an experienced DM, you know how to balance encounters for your group. You know how to adjust things on the fly for your specific group. You can tailor it to your group. But a new DM isn't going to have that knowledge. And unfortunately, at least with 5e, I don't know what it was like in previous editions, but at least in 5e, it doesn't really give you an explanation of how to design a challenging encounter. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I've missed it, but I don't think, like, 5e is not really supposed to be challenging, I suppose. Now, if you're doing 8 encounters in a day, I guess it is. I mean, every time I've done a dungeon, you know, by the time the players get to the boss, they've used most of their resources, or they've conserved all their resources, and so the moderate difficulty challenges they've been fighting up until that point have become a lot harder. So it's a balance of, do you use all your spell slots now and save HP, or do you use all your HP now by getting slapped, but save your spell slots, right, and then heal before the last boss or something. Now, the way I would do it, personally, is I would have something like a level range, rather than a CR. So, like this chair. Oh my god, boys. Right. What I would do is I would have, like, if you have a monster that's CR 13, for example, let's just use that as a number. That's the first number that came to my head, okay? I would not say it was CR 13. I would say this is, the level range of this monster is 7 to 13. So you know that if you're fighting it at the lower range of those levels, it will be a harder challenge. If you fight it at the higher range of those levels, it will be an easier challenge. But this monster is designed for a group between this level and that level. I think that would be so much more clear. Right? Way more clear. Like an ogre, instead of being CR2, should be level range 1 to 2. Right? Or you could separate them into tiers. Like, you've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. For those of you who don't know what that is, tier 1 is level 1 to 5, tier 2 is 5 to 10, tier 3 is 10 to 15, etc, etc, right? And you could have just, this monster is a tier 1 monster for low-level groups. This one's a tier 2 monster for mid-level groups. Problem with that is that not every monster is designed equal. Like, there's a big difference between a CR6 and a CR9, for example. But every time I think about CR, I'm always sat there thinking, what did the developers of this game actually intend? Like, what was their goal? Like, maybe if you sit there and you play the game exactly as intended, then maybe they're onto something. Because I have warmed up to the idea that some of the monster manual monsters of 5e are actually more challenging than you think. You're just usually playing them wrong. Dragons are actually very threatening, Because even though they're like the most common monster that people have in these stories of, oh, my players one-shot my BBEG, my dragon got stomped by them. Yeah, that happens a lot because they don't really have a lot of resistances and immunities. But if you play them right, their breath attack is scary as hell. But also, dragons are one of those things that, like, your player's probably going to go into that fight prepared. If you ambush your players in the wilderness with, like, a dragon and breath attack them off the bat, that's a scary encounter, right? That could down some of your players immediately. Okay, even if it is appropriate CR, you could level 13 characters and have a white dragon appear, ambush you, breath attack. Some of your lower HP characters, like your wizard and your rogue, might go down immediately if they fail their save, right? But honestly, like, it's just, I don't know how older editions did it. Maybe I gotta look at like 3.5 or whatever, or something. But old editions, like AD&D, is almost too difficult. Oh, you failed your save, you're dead. And then new D&D is almost too easy. Now, maybe it's the magic items that you give out as well. I can't wrap my head around it, man. Look, maybe I'll do a longer video on CR at some point. Like, actually going into, like, the nitty-gritty and the details of it. Because I'm sure there's a lot I can talk about. But, oh my god, boys. Like, CR, it makes no sense. Okay? It's confusing for new DMs. And it's a redundant stat for experienced DMs because they don't even bother looking at it. So, that's been my rant for today, boys. Cheers, thank you very much.